right, and we are recording. Thank you so much for joining me. Oh my goodness, oh my goodness. And we're the same age.
Okay.
And I was looking, I was noticing like in one of your videos, it said 1986 or something, and I'm
Yep.
like, wait a minute, all right, all right. So yeah, it's like us young folks, like millennials, can be out here, really making a real big change. And like you were saying, you're not really into politics. To me, I got involved because I feel so strongly about things. I'm not some polished politician, and but I'm a person who believes in just getting things done by collaborating with people. Because at the end of the day, I'm fighting these fights for people. And my community here in Harper Woods, which is right next to Detroit, we ended our recycling program
Mm.
last year. It was last year, and I got on council prior to me getting on council in November of last year. They ended our recycling program, and I tried to like have brainstorming sessions and try to meet with other people and say like, okay, well, is there a way we can partner with Detroit to do some of these things? And there wasn't enough. There weren't enough resources for us to be able to do these sort of things, and so people were just throwing away their recyclables now, and
Mm.
it breaks my heart every time. And you know I know that you have like this sort of just focus on doing really outlandish things to show people what they can really do and how they can really step up, like wearing your trash, to show people the impact of our carbon footprint, and then also looking at how we're throwing things away. So I really wanted to be able to delve into some questions that I've been actually asking at the legislative level, because in addition to working as a city councilwoman, I started working with the Michigan legislature as a community and policy liaison. So I've been working with environmental groups in Michigan to be able to, really push the needle. And I know our governor actually just had a big giant executive order that was like, this is what we're going to do. We're going to make sure that we're a sustainable state. And I'm like, yay.
Huh.
So yeah. First I'm going to go ahead and introduce you,
Okay.
and then just we can just jump right into like a candid conversation, free flowing.
Cool.
um, so Rob Greenfield is a adventurer, environmental activist, and entrepreneur. And he's dedicated to leading the way in more sustainable, creating a more sustainable and a more just world. And he's made it his life's purpose to inspire like a healthy earth, and having, kind of these attention grabbing things. And you founded the Greenfield Group in 2011, to create more sustainably and environmentally active marketing. Is that right? Did I get that back right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Awesome, awesome. So some of these extreme antics that kind of are about environmental initiatives include the Trash Me campaign. Wearing all of your trash in New York in 2016, to show that after a month, this is how much garbage. And I believe, what was it, about 10 pounds worth of garbage or something in that?
90
Oh
pounds.
my
Yep.
God, that is another person.
The average person creates about 4.5 pounds of trash per day. So after a month, I had 90 pounds of trash on my body. It was
90
heavy.
pounds of trash. That is crazy. That is, but that is really just like, this is what we can do. We can get rid of some of these things and get back to the basics. And so, Rob is really about inviting us to commit to, daily changes and some of these little things that we can do to foster a more sustainable environment and be the change that we seek to see in the world. Thank you so much, Rob Greenfield, for being here with me,
It's my
and
pleasure.
having
I'm
this
enjoying
chat.
it already.
All
Yeah.
right. So, where can people find you, and what are some ways that people can seek you to find out more about what parts they can play and what roles they can play in keeping our planet green and doing better?
Sure. Well, it's all about, looking at your personal situation and asking what you can do. So we all live in, different communities. We all have our own individual circumstances and lives. And so it's always about asking that question of what you can do to be of service to your communities. And at the same time improve your own quality of life. And so, for me, one of the ways of doing that is changing yourself. I think no matter what position that you're in, whether you're, a politician or a teacher or an activist or a student or any position, one thing that we can do is we can work on ourselves to be the change that we wish to see in the world. But then we can also do our part to improve our communities as well. So I guess one resource I would direct people to is when I started to make positive changes in my life, my goal was just to make one positive change per week for 2 years, because that would be 100 positive changes in 2 years. And I list those on my website. If you go to robgreenfield.org/100, just the number 100, that lists 100 positive changes that you can make as a way to get started.
Okay, awesome, awesome. So, and that was something that was really inspiring to me because there I really have gotten into minimalism, and it's mostly because of watching you and like other YouTubers who have, they're all about being a minimalist because you want to lessen the impact of your carbon footprint, and being a minimalist because you want to make things simple and sustainable. And so, I just kind of have a tracker for not only, things that I want to be able to do, but then when I heard your TED talk about like one thing, and I'm like, all right, that one thing is not only me becoming a minimalist and kind of swapping out, having these zero waste swaps, like actually using a glass or like my travel container that is made out of metal, and never using plastic bottles again, and bringing my own shopping bag. But I also really want to be able to, in my community as a council person, create a sustainability commission. And that way we can check and see if our buildings are creating a lot of energy waste. So I think that is just definitely, that list is a great way to kind of build on it. And it's like you accomplish that thing, you feel good, and you're like, all right, I'm creating some good for the planet. All right.
Yep.
So that kind of leads me into my first question for you. Why sustainability? What got you started down this path? And even though I know a lot about this because, you said you started watching documentaries and reading books about the topic, and you just really got into it. Why is this not a topic that more people are making their lives revolve around? And we have you, and we have people like Greta Thunberg, and we only have one planet with finite resources. Why is this your life's calling? And why do you think that it is that others don't see the severity in climate change, and really pushing for sustainability and doing our part to make the planet better?
Yeah, well, like the reason that I focus on it is because it is life. I mean, there's no separating our very earth, which is our very existence, from anything. Political, social, whether it's, business or pleasure, our existence really comes down to whether or not we have an earth to exist on, and whether or not we have the basic resources that we need in order to not just survive, but to live happy, healthy, fulfilling lives. So it's very easy to leave these things out because we've taken them for granted today. We're quite, as a society, we're very disconnected from our resources. And so we don't see where our water comes from. We don't see the pollution so much. We don't see where our food comes from, how it gets to us, the impact that it has on other people. So the truth is that most of the burden is being outsourced elsewhere because of our globalized, industrialized systems. And so we don't have to see it. So it's very easy to forget about it. So basically, the reason that I am so dedicated to it is because it is our very basic existence. It's at the core of so many of our problems. And then, ironically, something that is at the core of our problems is very easy to forget about because we happen to live on a time on this earth where our systems are set up in a way where we have our basic needs met, sort of, um, and we can not pay attention to the reality behind our actions.
Right, right. Because when it becomes something like, I remember you said this in one of the videos, it's like when you have to put forth little effort, you don't think about it. But then when you have to put forth a lot of effort, like for example, having, to compost, your own waste. And if you go to the bathroom and you are, maybe foraging rainwater and you're using that, and then you have to go and compost it, and you're putting out so much effort. It's like, and those are things that when you really get back to it, and, in a lot of developing, emerging markets and developing economies, this is the way that people live and have lived for generations. And so, but it's like having this kind of modern lifestyle where everything's out of sight and out of mind, it does take you away from the impact of what you're putting into the planet. So I think that's really salient, and it's something that, more people just need that general education around. And so I really think that I appreciate like the level of introspection that you've also had during these times where, you know, there's been a lot of social upheaval. So not only have we, really been fighting this war for a really long time for, to make sure that we're protecting our planet, but in 2020, we had a lot of our systems kind of writ large, meaning, it's just it's out here, it's clear. There are social determinants of health that we need to take into consideration. There are disparities as far as just people coming from different backgrounds and different understandings, and I think that a lot of the social justice the social justice conversations that were happening, you were very candid on social media, and you were talking about um, just having the country really examine the impact of systemic injustice, which is something that I've been personally fighting for, to make sure that we're having conversations around anti-racism and having cultural diversity and sensitivity training in my own community and in the Metro Detroit area, looking at ways to reform police. But I really want to talk about your crusade in uplifting marginalized voices, particularly of Black women. And I really appreciated that, which is how I commented on your post and you liked it. And I'm like, oh, he's a real person who actually liked it. And, I really appreciated that. And, was really happy to see that you were also giving voice to, the anti-racism movements, and talking about social justice in America. And that was how we connected on social media. So what are some of your thoughts on just tell us a little bit more about you know having those moments where you had to think deeply about the way you've always thought and how you wanted to change for the better.
Yeah, well, the thing is, we live in a time where we like to separate ideas and we like things to be clear and simple. But the truth is that everything is interconnected. So environmental destruction and destruction of humanity are completely hand in hand. Environmental justice and social justice, racial justice are, completely inseparable. It's a lot of the environmental problems that we deal with today are at the root of many of the problems that different groups of humanity are dealing with, and our racist systems are based in a way that puts most of the burden of our environmental destruction on around the world, generally Black, Indigenous, and different people of color communities. And so there's just no separating any of these things. And I do think in the environmental movement people do like to separate them, because I mean the reality is that it's a lot easier to talk about cleaning up our oceans than anti-racism, and it's easier for the average person like our age to talk about straws, getting rid of plastic straws and
By
plastic
2020
bottles,
they gotta go, right?
yeah, than anti-racism and racism. And it does require, to go into that requires you to look into yourself a lot more as well. Like environmental issues do require you to look into yourself, but not nearly as much as how you're treating other people, and equally or more importantly, how you are involved in systems that are not empowering other people, but actually decreasing the quality of life in those communities and not equitably spreading resources. So I guess for me, like one of the big things is always about not using not trying to create a system of labels, not trying to separate issues, but realize that everything is interconnected. Everything on earth and everything within humanity is completely connected. And I mean, for me personally, I this year realized that I was separating them too much. Even though I knew better, I was focusing, like, I realized that my focus on environmental issues was being done in a way where I was mostly highlighting initiatives that were led by white people, that were more beneficial to white people. And I realized that I really should be focusing on environmental issues that are representative of our greater humanity, and environmental issues that are uplifting the people that are the most impacted by the destruction of our westernized, globalized societies. So, I think that right now one of the most important things that we can do is uplift, you know, initiatives that are led by people of color, and especially women of color, because if we want to take down this broken patriarchal racist society, I think the best way to do that is to put the power into the hands of people of color, and women of color in particular. And I think the track record's proven that they do a great job. It's in no way, shape,
Oh,
or
for sure.
form about it's in no way, shape, or form about saying, it, you know, it's it's not putting people into a position they don't deserve. It's putting the people who deserve the position into the position they should already be in. So it's a no-brainer.
Thank you. Thank you. And I think that that is really, really important to say that, it's not really about like, oh, okay, well, it's time to just start putting people places. It's like, no, it's more time to recognize, what people have already been doing, and, just kind of giving that giving people who have already been using their voice a voice, and
Yeah.
helping, leverage and level the playing field. And I'm glad you actually touched on, just the patriarchal nature of, just the way that things are structured. So yeah, yeah. I'm sorry, I didn't
Yeah.
cut you off.
I really think in every way, shape, and form, it's one of the most important things we can do in a human sense, in an environmental sense, in a creating harmonious systems that are truly, representative of the people. And I think just in every way, shape, or form. And like you said, it's about putting the people who have already been doing this for decades and years into those platforms. And I have to be honest, as a white male myself, when I first started to try to, like, switch over the initiatives that I was sharing, I actually thought there weren't many Black people that were talking about these issues that I was talking about. But now I realize I was so wrong. It's just that they weren't getting the voice and the media for me to be able to find them. Now that I've really actually done the work, it's endless. I mean, I've found there's thousands,
Thousands
thousands.
of people out here. And I think that's something that even I realized, like, okay, well, you have the bully pulpit of being, a person in a public office. And, maybe it is time to, do our due diligence, as opposed to, kind of, having the, just folks that you mentioned, the patriarchy, and dismantling that patriarchy, and looking at how, it has been, steeped in just like, internalized sense of, okay, well, actually, this is going to be the voice of who is an environmentalist. And, these other voices, they're just not out there. But it's more, we're not necessarily hearing them. We're not really looking for them. And, it's there. I mean, even just embracing minimalism, I found so many groups that are Black minimalists, Black women minimalists, and, perspectives in living with less. And, even having conversations around, because of, systemic injustice, and, because of the social determinants of health and all these other things, other factors, minimalism has kind of been a lifestyle for a lot of Black people, just because of just the nature of, what some barriers are to getting access to things, especially living in food deserts like Detroit. Um, and so it's just really being intentional about like what we're looking and what we're seeking. And I think it's really important that you also touched on, it's not just an America thing. This is worldwide, because a lot of times the burden of environmental irresponsibility is shifted onto the global South, and these are the formerly known as the third world, but it's really emerging markets and developing economies where most of these folks tend to be people of color who are then taking the garbage, and it's going to places like China and India and African countries where you know they're the environments are suffering because of capitalism and because of a patriarchy that is steeped in this sense of Eurocentrism and colonialism. And with that capitalist system is also this consumerism. And why do we need to consume so much? And we also have to face planned obsolescence where it's just going to go obsolete, so just go buy it more. It's consumerism. Buy it, buy it, buy it. But it's when you buy it, you never feel fulfilled. And I think I feel more fulfilled when I'm owning less and able to just go places. I know I've traveled in Europe and I've always just kept one or two things and I'll just wash them out. And, I'm just so happy and carefree when I'm just backpacking around somewhere and I have only what I need and not a lot of things that I have to, oh, I got to watch my suitcase because I got those 10 outfits in there that I didn't even end up wearing. So,
Yep.
yeah, I think that's just really important. And I'm so glad that, you are a part of the fight. And, there's allyship here for you to be able to, not only lend your voice to this cause now as well, but to also be a person who is, right there alongside, the rest of the world and recognizing how important, it is. Because I think social justice is economic justice, and, also environmental justice is social justice. So
Yep.
it's one and the same.
It's a difficult world we live in. There's, so many working pieces and there's so many elements. So it really does require critical thinking, and it really requires a lot of thinking to get to the real roots of the problems and really, really solve these issues and make a better life for humanity. It's difficult because, one easy thing for us in the United States to do is we could like try to make this a more equitable country by taking more resources from other nations, and we could feel good about ourselves. But the reality is that we may be doing that in a way where we're just creating a less equitable world, where we're actually stealing from other countries in Africa and Asia and kind of continuing that racist way of existence where we extract from them. But we can leave that out because mentally it's easy to focus on just what's around us. And so it's so important to go deep, even within our work here in the United States with environmental and racial and social justice, to make sure that what solutions we're applying are actually solutions for people on the other side of the world who are indirectly involved in our actions here.
Right, right. And I love that you just talked about like the kind of invisibility. And so, in what way would you, as an activist who's really working towards, just your life is revolving around that. And I really have been meaning to, like, I'm like, as soon as I talk to him, I really want to ask him about that sweater, because I really want to, find that sustainable sweater that is going to stand the test of time. And I'd only have to own one like you, and, just kind of, make sure that, those are, but my main question is what kind of pressure would you put on people like me, with lawmakers, with, your elected officials, to tell us like, hey, this is what you need to do. You need to create community gardens or create a sustainability commission. And, what kind of, how can the community be educated on creating a more sustainable city? Because I really want to know how I can not only uplift the people here to ask me for more, but how to be able to fight for more for them. So, in
Yeah.
your infinite wisdom, what would you tell me to do to really be able to protect and fight for the planet?
Yeah. Well, first to answer your sweater question, I just got this. It's a wool sweater. I got it for $12 at a thrift store, and it's got holes in both of the elbows, and I just keep sewing those up. And so, it gets the job done. When it wears out, I can compost it because it's wool, and then I could buy another one at a thrift store.
Nice,
So,
nice.
but as far as what to do in the community, so the big thing is that every community has different needs. Every community has to look at what they need to change or what they're doing well that they need to continue in order to create a more sustainable and just community. But at the same time, there are threads that run through much of our society, um, that are really, common themes and things that are causing this separation in our communities and this destruction. Personally, I do really think that food is one of the big ways that we can change our communities. I have just seen time and time again in the many different communities that I've worked with is that connecting people with their food at the source changes them on an individual level, changes the communities, changes the way that those communities interact with the world around them. And so I think, one thing that can be done in a governmental level is helping to create and empower the initiatives that already exist to create a more local food economy. And so in cities, there is, the abandoned lots, the parks, and, there's in a lot of cities, Detroit included, there is enough open, unused space to produce a majority or more than all of the fruits and vegetables needed for everyone in that city.
Oh,
So
for
we're
sure.
talking about, food insecurity, a solution to food insecurity. We're talking about real jobs that are meaningful and where people feel a sense of purpose in them. We're talking about a massive decrease in our negative impact on the environment by outsourcing that food growth and having to ship it in. We're talking about less cars on the road that are bringing in food. We're talking about increasing our quality of our soil. We're talking about rainwater runoff being lessened because we have soil that will actually absorb it. We're talking about reducing our greenhouse gases. So, and those are just a handful of things. There's so much more. So, on a simple level, it's those initiatives and those programs being allowed, because in some places they're not allowed by local municipalities or sometimes larger municipalities, but then actually given an equal chance. If we go on a bigger level, which is not something that locality has as much to do with, but that would be government the subsidies. So
Right.
if we equalize subsidies that are given to corn and soy and big ag to local agriculture, that would shift our entire nation. So, locally and nationally, changing the food scene, that one thing, changing the food scene would change our nation. And our food scene is an incredibly racist system. When you get Driscoll's strawberries that are shipped from uh, California to Michigan or Wisconsin, those are sprayed by pesticides with migrant workers from Mexico who have multiple times higher rates of cancer and respiratory disease. And when we eat those strawberries, we basically say those Mexicans' lives matter less than ours. We're fine with them poisoning themselves just so we can have strawberries from California. And the same goes for tomatoes from Florida, where they're being paid like, just completely unlivable wages. And and the same with meat packing plants. All of our large scale food system is a racist food system. So targeting our food system is targeting our environmental problems and our racist system at the same time. I really think that it's one of the most massive things we could change in our societies.
Thank you for that. And I think it's really important that people know that, not only are these systems not regulated in ways that really protect the workers, but it's also, it kind of perpetuates like this mistreatment of, just what we're putting into our environment. And, especially with meat packing, I mean, not only are the animals treated inhumanely, but then the employees are just, especially during COVID, there were so many complaints about, just, well, there are not enough, safety precautions. They're not providing masks. They're making us get in packed closely together when there should be social distancing. And, so these things are being ignored. And so, I really think that it's really important to push back against, special interest groups that are really going to go to town for and on behalf of big corporations that, just practice these, policies that are steeped in racism, are steeped in a sense of, people don't matter when they're on the lower rungs of the socioeconomic totem pole and or have dark skin, and it's like people of color and, these voices, they don't matter. So I think we really have to push back against that narrative. And this is why you vote for people. You vote for people to represent you. And, if I can't be that, then I mean, what am I in this office for?
Yeah.
So, it's just, I think it's really important to be able to have more conversations with voices like yours. And I know, like, initially when I reached out, you were like, I don't know all the politics stuff, but I'm like, but you are the environmental voice, and you are that person that I can learn from. And to really, not only because I feel like I'm such a fangirl and I've been just like showing your videos to everybody and telling them to like follow you and, just like, look at what this dude is doing. And, you know, I feel like I'm trying to like replace little things and then just to really kind of embrace this lifestyle, and I'm getting there. But it's really important for us to know that there are little ways that we can help, we can fix the problems, and we can really just kind of fight for a better planet. And then also other issues that are connected to fighting for a planet. And I remember I started hosting a lot of Zoom social justice and anti-racism kind of workshops in the community, and I was surprised to have people coming from the UK, who were Black Britons, talking about having their women, Black women, having their voices, not heard, and they felt really marginalized. And I had never really heard too much from a Black British perspective.
Mm.
And there was one particular woman who, she said, I am really an avid environmentalist, but it's always overshadowed by
Mm.
some microaggression, by some slight, by people paying attention to the color of my skin first and discriminating against me. But then
Mm.
my message on environmentalism is lost. And so I felt like that was really powerful, because we do want to talk about these things, but you have to fight one battle first before people even listen to you. And to your point about food and bringing people together, I started a microgranting community dinner where small business ideas are given little grants, to be able to just get into an actual brick and mortar, to go out there and start a business. And it's a soup dinner where people from around the
Mm.
community just come together, and then they pay for soup, they eat their soup. And most of the ideas that were pitched at that very first Harperwood soup, they were all about just fair food, local gardening, community gardening, vegan and plant-based food alternatives, and adopting a vegan diet and eating healthy. And it was just like every single one of the ideas. And
Cool.
it was just a coincidence, but this is what people want.
Yeah.
And, so I was actually really surprised. Not only did, so many people gather together with complete strangers and neighbors that maybe they normally wouldn't interact with, over food. And that was locally made. It was like a big potluck, and everybody came together. To support just the local economy, but it was all of these food based kind of ideas that were the ones that were just out there, and people wanted to uplift them. So
I think you're on the right track there. I think that sounds like a great program. And, with a lot of these initiatives, just a little bit goes a really long way. These microgrants can be extremely productive And, for a lot of these little initiatives and these people that have an idea, $1,000 to them can, create a community composting program or a small
Right.
community garden where like other people with $100,000 wouldn't even barely accomplish anything. And I really think that's one of the most powerful things we can do is uplift these small initiatives led by people in our communities.
Right. So, well, thank you so much for coming on. And everybody, you can find Rob at robgreenfield.org on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and just some of the other, what are some of your closing thoughts on, just the future of our world? I mean, 2020 has been quite a year. We have been under this administration removing ourselves from a lot of the we're talking about now removing ourselves from the World Health Organization, the Paris Climate Accord, and there have been a lot of just very selfish moves that kind of are not really thinking about the planet, but are thinking about the corporate bottom line, and just really perpetuating that capitalism that only serves a few at the just at the demise of everybody else. And so what are some words of positivity, especially even with the COVID-19 pandemic? And we're seeing there's a rise in zoonotic diseases like the coronavirus across the world, and it's becoming a problem. And so what is your positive message for?
Well, my thought and what keeps me going is if our administration is going to do less, ask yourself how you can do more. Like use it as motivation, create a balance by every time you see less, bring things up. Now, of course, you have to work within the resources that you have. We have to take care of ourselves. Like self-care is so important. We can't burn ourselves out. Like you and I were 34 years old. Hopefully we're doing this for the next 50 years, which means we have to take care of ourselves.
Right.
And you know, there's some people out there where they don't have a lot of resources to give. They're just struggling to get by.
Hmm.
So I'm not, I just want to say, like, if you have the resources, if you feel like you have the time and resources, then spread those resources amongst your community to uplift the people in your community and make an investment in your local politics, in your local community with your time and the resources that you have, and use this as a time to double down on making that change. Use the inspiration of our utterly despicable current political system to be the best you that you can be in your system in whatever way that is. Again, it could be as a politician, a local politician, it could be as a teacher, it could be as a babysitter taking care of kids, it could be as an activist or a custodian or a person who helps people cross the street, in anything that you do. So, although this year and many of the years before this are reason to be down, it is also a time when we can lift things up. So in many ways, we're blessed with this time. If we want to be change makers, we're in the right time to be a change maker.
Oh, for sure. Thank you. Thank you for those words of wisdom. And that was really, truly beautiful. So yes, be the change you want to see in the world. And thank you so much for being a part of this interview and, enlightening me. And I get to, be all fangirl and be like, so,
Well, now that now
uh,
that now that we know each other, now I know you're in Michigan. I have a reason to visit Detroit, so I hope
oh my
to
gosh.
I hope to come visit Ernestine, and maybe we could do one of those grant dinners together. That'd be
Oh my
great.
gosh, yes, and I am going to hold you to that. And so yes, yes.
All right,
I even thought
cool,
about there's some lots around my community that may be building a tiny, tiny house and just having a nice garden. So
cool.
I
Well,
will
we'll keep
definitely
in
hold
touch
you to that.
then.
All right, all right. So I'm going to stop our recording now. Bye, everybody.
Cool.